Hello, hi, welcome. Welcome from Hungary. I see you watched the prologue. And you rewatched the previous live stream as well? Then you checked out the film fiction story for the prologue. Yeah, there were a lot of edits. After I read the first prologue. I almost had the first chapter, but it's after the prologue. That made it much better. How are you in this fine night? Well, for you it's night. For me it's light. It's in the morning. Are there new comments on it? I don't know. I don't think so. Except the one that you wrote. It was actually the post-production that was a lot of work because of the stupid I just call it an idiot who basically took out one of the electric posts with his car, and that's why I got my corruption, and I had to redo all of it. That was the most annoying part on my part. And also I should probably wake up properly because I just woke up like half an hour ago. And don't fall very square. I can't even speak. You got the doc? You got Google Doc version of this story open? Ready to input any corrections. Okay, and also I'm smiling already. And Quill probably knows why I'm smiling. Do you? Because there is an author's note already here. It's a new one. Can't I scroll a little bit less than this? There we go. I am more ready this time. I am not ready. I am not ready. I don't even know how long this is. I just opened this up like 10 minutes ago. Little more detailed description of the room where all the action chapter 1 takes. Yes, that's a good idea. See a chair, a table, and some kind of scroll holder, and the bed and the window. Yeah, and also a door. Don't forget about the door. They can't leave if that's not happening. Yeah, they probably left after they saw me. But that's fine, that's fine. It is for you, actually. You are the one who needs help right here, not me. I'm just happy if at least one of you are here. So I'm talking about other kinds of furniture, colors of walls. Yes! It's much better if you can imagine what the actual surroundings are. Because if you are not telling the readers where they are. They will just assume that they are in a dark place without any natural light, and they don't see anything other than the window, the bed, the desk, and the chair. So, are you sure? What if Autoscroll teleported? Well, wasn't it said that he walked out of the door? If I remember correctly, was something like that. Unlikely, but I can't put it past him. His father teaches magic for a living, yep. It's important. Because he is a noble. Okay, but... I'm still curious how this is gonna all go out, because we are gonna just see in this chapter how this visit of his cousin is gonna go, right? Cousin? Oh, he's landing on his bed because it's super comfy. But most other ponies are not that rich to have even a chair, which is not comfy for ponies. Describes the room to the extent that is relevant to the scene. The door is used when Arthur leaves. What door? There is no doors. I take offense to that. Just kidding. It's good to have a little bit of input session before and after reading. Just talking about the house itself. Maybe in this chapter? I don't know. Where is it to the relation to the city? Yeah, there could be a lot of stuff in there, but it's your job as the author to describe everything for the readers, basically. So they can imagine everything. Especially when there is mention of police sleeping in the straw or dirt. There's a mention of approaching the home in a later chapter. That could be a opportunity to describe it. Yep, that's a good opportunity to describe it. That is actually a good opportunity. Expand the description there. So when I reach the chapter, it's epic. I don't know when it's gonna happen, because this week there is gonna be one more reading session. And also something else, but that's a secret until then. I'm still waiting if anything else pops up. And just for you, by the way, I'm gonna show you the screen for a second. Just so you can see what's the difference between what I see and what you see. Just write something and see the delay of this YouTube, because it's a little bit of delay. This room returns to the story in a few later chapters as well. Yeah, you might be able to expand as well. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. To my Zoom, take it out! Don't worry, I'm taking it out. Any extra ideas, Alchemist? Or we should start the reading? Zoom? Yeah, zoomed on the chat. I think that's what they were talking about. There's a lot more paragraphs to this chapter, should be easier to read. Yeah, this is the only thing that I read. Right here, the author's note. Before starting this. So when I loaded up this screen, I obviously caught my eye. Today, I got a special announcement. Tonight, a live reading by Takeshy will be done in this chapter on YouTube. So yes, this caught my eye immediately, and thanks for the shout out, obviously. And you also added another line to the parts that is first person narrative from father to daughter in the present. Written right here. Might be annoying to look at, but it makes the perspective clear. Let me see. Oh yes, it's a little bit annoying to see. Underline was not the best idea, but yeah. We will see how this turns out. I didn't even scroll down until now. The problem with formatting is that there are not too many different basic things you can do. Used to frame those paragraphs with brackets, but many complained about it. Yeah, the more interesting idea would be using different kind of font instead. I don't know if you can do that though. If you can change the font only on that part or something like that. I mean, from Times New Roman to something different, cursive, something. Cursive is not a good idea because it's hard to read, but you know what I mean. The original document, you had those paragraphs in different font, but oh, film fiction doesn't support. Yeah, that's bad. I like this font. It's easy to read, by the way. Is it Arial? It might be Arial. I guess it's a good idea, but it's not for the book mode. Yep. I don't actually know what could be changed, because underline is not the best idea. But somehow showing that we jumped is a good idea though. At least temporarily. We will see how this works out. So, are you ready for this reading? It's our job to change the text to better convey who is talking, splitting sentences, or adding breathing points to avoid eye strain. There's gonna be a lot of eye strain from what I've seen from the scrolling. And also the fact that I'm not fully awake. Yes, please, begin! Yeah, we had a 20 minutes talking session about the last chapters, but that's fine. So let me see. Let me change this. That's a random music right now. We are gonna start chapter 2 of Skydancer, the first flying unicorn. Natural magic. We are actually gonna start speaking about how magic works. That is gonna be really interesting. Probably about his uncle. Let me see, where is the lines? Okay. Starpiece yawned a bit as she gazed off the cliff face somewhat tiredly. I can certainly understand Mom's curiosity, Starpiece mentioned. If I were in her place, I would be curious too. Heck, I'm curious now. I certainly hope what you found out wasn't a secret. Don't you dare tease me with information like this when suddenly hold back the rest. I will never forgive you if you do. Her father pretended he wasn't aware of his daughter's yawn, but he was. He kept a mental note of it, as it was a sign of when he should stop his story for the night. So we are still on the first night. No, it's not a secret, her father said. It's kind of the opposite of a secret, actually. What I'm about to tell you tonight is not something that splashed all over the news or whispered in the dark shadows all across Equestria. Rather, what I'm about to tell you tonight, your granduncle wanted me to explain to the others, especially to somebody like you. You are family, and the history of our family is something he would have wanted you to know. Your granduncle, Ramadan, discovered something in himself out there while living in that farm. Something he wanted. Oh, it's still him? Oh. I thought, okay. Already I have a little bit of confusion right here. Because you started a new paragraph, a new quote right here. I thought they changed who is speaking. But it's still the father. This chapter is longer than the first. We will see. If I can't finish, then I will just cut it in time and continue it on Friday. That's all. Your granduncle, Ramadan, discovered something in himself out there while living on that farm. Something he wanted to share with every pony he ever encountered. The word I can think of that best describes your granduncle is enlightened. He was wiser than almost any other pony I know because of his discoveries. He would be pleased that I am sharing this information with you tonight, because he thinks every pony should know the secrets that cause him to feel so fulfilled. So spill it already, Starbase demanded impatiently, irritably, a bit cranky due to her escalating fatigue. In due time, her father said. Patience is a virtue. That's one of the things your granduncle taught me. Oh, your granduncle taught me, and he also explained why it is true. To get the full story, however, we will have to go back a little further than that. If I have time, I would do that. Get out of the tangent as the alternate version, but not to replace the original. I will think about that. I will think about that. XO. Wait. So underline is the present, but this was the present and this is the past, isn't it? We will see. While riding with my father in an enclosed carriage out to Uncle Ramadan's farm, I am mostly focused on my father across from me during the trip. I kept thinking of your mother's questions for me back in my bedroom. Oh my god, it looks like there is a dot at the end because of the underline. It's been 26 minutes, yep. Okay, there's the point, okay. I kept thinking of your mother's questions for me back in my bedroom, and it kept repeating in my head as I stared at my father, trying to get into his head as best as I could. If I had the power to read his mind back then certainly I would have used it at that moment. Judging purely on facial expressions, however, my father made my task quite challenging. He should have been a poker player, in my estimation. Between his astute math skills, detailed education, and stoic facial expression devoid of all emotion nearly all the time. He would have made a great player of the game if he didn't consider it so far beneath him. My father was rigid, disciplined, stoic, and proper in all things. Staring at him was akin to staring at a statue. I even made a game out of counting the seconds between his eye blinks. By now, I forgot what his record was. As I recall at this point, was the fact that I gradually grew more and more impressed with his record, and also kind of bored of the situation overall. It was also a quiet trip, as our conversations usually are. Sometimes he pulls out a pocket watch from underneath his fine velvet cloak and checks for the time. Sometimes he looks wistfully out of the window and stares at various trees, rocks, ponies, or terrain as it passes. Briefly, I caught him glancing in my direction several times, which always made me feel self-conscious, like I had been caught doing something naughty, like sticking a hoof into the cookie jar. Every time he did that, I would stare at something else for a few seconds, but gradually my attention returned to him. Sitting there in the carriage, with just the two of us, there was little else I could do to occupy my time. I have a feeling that he knew what I was thinking, and if true, that made only one of us. My father was by no means a stupid pony. On the contrary, he was actually quite brilliant and well educated. He must have known that I was curious why he was sending me off to spend a week on his brother's farm, especially considering the turbulent history he had with his brother. Sending me there without being buried in his homework was uncharacteristic for him. He must have known I would find it strange, but I never worked up the courage just to ask him directly. Living with a pony you feel is constantly judging you would make any pony feel self-conscious. Certainly, I was no exception. But just because I didn't have the courage to ask him directly wouldn't stop me from wondering anyway. I just hoped that his brother had a more inviting attitude. Something to make him more approachable. He just hoped that his brother had more inviting attitude? That means it is the first time that they are meeting, right? At least this is the first time when they are meeting and he is actually able to speak with him. That sounds like that. Speaking of which, it eventually occurred to me to ask myself when was the last time I saw my uncle. There is my answer right there. According to some of the butlers and maids, I asked in my manner. Just before the start of our trip, most of them had no idea, but there was one elderly maid in our house that indicated that the last time I saw my uncle in person, I was still a baby. Okay, that is my answer. If true, then that would explain why I had such a trouble recalling him. Back then, Ramadan was still a distinguished wizard. Even if I managed to recall him, I had the feeling he would be quite different now. What an adventure this was. Like, his house is a manor. What an adventure this was likely to turn out to be. It was the sense of excitement that kept me from passing out of pure boredom. And that if that happened, I would have never heard the end of it from my bitter father about how improper such behavior was while out in public. Eventually, I spent my time looking out the window as well, but unlike my father, my attention grew far more dedicated to it, especially when things out there grew less and less familiar. My life, up to that point, was spent mostly staring out my window at various castle spires, such as those in the Canterlot between breaks in my studies. I know you have seen them before, my sweet. So I need not describe them in great detail at this time, but on that carriage ride, for the first time, I had my first taste of country life, and compared to where I came from, that was quite culture shock for me back then. Fairchild Land, as far as I could see. Occasionally I would pass another pony working out on that farm. The sunset lit the sky with brilliant flaming light. I loved how the clouds just glowed out there in the sky. Apparently 1 year the Applejack could speak and remember the Apple Fritters incidents. That's true. So he met him before he was 1 year old. Like, he was like 1 month old. He was a baby. Occasionally, I passed swathed stacks of hay. Other times, I saw young foals playing off the sides of the dirt street. I felt a brief but intense pang of jealousy at how much fun they seemed to have in life. It made me wonder if the infinite gap between the rich and poor is the happiness level, and if so, the poor seem to draw the bitter end of the stick. More than likely, they probably thought of us in a similar light, most because of some imagined benefit. Why does it seem so rare for ponies to simply be happy, just where they are? Eventually, we pulled up on Ramadan's farm. I swallowed up a lump in my throat, then stepped out of the carriage, not really knowing what to expect. Facing the unknown like that brought with it a lot of fear and excitement all at the same time. Outside the carriage, I was assailed by a swell of unidentified senses. The sights, the sounds, the smells, the temperature in the air. It actually felt like I stepped into another world. I know that sounds strange to you since you have seen many sights all across Equestria in a airship, but back then I was not accustomed to travel. I saw a dog racing across the dirt road towards me. It was the only creature in the vicinity that had absolutely no sense of proper etiquette. Instead, the creature charged right at me and started licking me. At first, I was quite startled, thinking I was being attacked, but seconds later I realized what it was up to, and I was not actually being eaten. Other ponies, catching up to the scene, called the dog's name and said, "Get down!" At this point I forgot the dog's name directly, but I do recall that disapproval. Disapproval, but not surprise. Apparently this kind of behavior was common for dogs, and it was actually the friendlier approach they could make. If they start barking at you harshly instead, then watch out. That's actually a warning that they will attack if you get too close. Eventually the dogs did settle and raced back to those that caught it. It was then that I first beheld my uncle after many years, and as I suspected, if I could have recalled his attire and face when I was an infant, I really doubt I would have recognized him since. Why is there a big spacing between these two lines? Did you press and enter by accident? He trotted towards me, and my father with most of his family in tow. Those who weren't with him were either working or playing out on the farm somewhere else. Perhaps this filly who lives in a flying ship must most likely do not have much contact with dogs. Yeah, they probably don't let dogs out on there. He actually looked like a nurse pony. That's the best way I could describe my first impression of him. In fact, I actually did mistake him for an earth pony until my father called out his name. My eyes widened in shock, and I secretly asked myself, "That's him?" He was actually quite tall and brawny for a unicorn. He was smoky, grey-colored pony with lighter shade of grey around his face. He had a thin line of beard tracking around the bottom edge of his jaw, which extended from the right to the left edge of each side of his jaw. His mane, tail, and beard were deep brown. He wore jean overalls and suspenders strapped around his shoulders. He also wore a yellow straw hat, which I noticed concealed his horn completely. The airship isn't built yet. It is built in the present. That's what Argamis is being told about. Yeah, we know the airship is not anywhere near this past. Let's just say it like that. In the present past, he is just a little unicorn who is trying to learn from everything. And yes, he was talking to her daughter, to his daughter. And I have to add, you actually described the uncle pretty well right here. I can imagine how he looks like. Except with cutie mark, which is concealed or not concealed? No, yes, it is concealed by the jean overalls. I was left with the shocked impression that he did that deliberately, as he was trying to hide the fact. Oh, right here. That he was a unicorn entirely. It made me think, why? Why was he ashamed to be a unicorn? Of course I want to talk. Here I am, a fellow unicorn who sort of wished he was a Pegasus. Oh, the irony of life sometimes. Uncle Ramadan and his family were far more welcoming than I expected. They didn't insist to hug my father. If they did, I have a strong feeling he would have rejected it. They did offer it to me, however. I recall glancing up at my father, as if silently asking for his permission. Truth to be told, there was a subtle hint of disapproval in his face, and yet, oddly, he nodded yes. Surprise crept up inside me due to the mixed messages my father conveyed, but before I had a chance to analyze it fully, I was suddenly yanked back and forth from pony to pony who took turns hugging me. I honestly could not recall before that moment. When was the last time I was touched to that degree and frequency? Oh no, he was being touched! Instantly my mom came to my mind, but besides her, there really was no other prior experience like it in my life. I learned over time that Earthpony culture seemed to require a considerably larger degree of touching compared to most other breeds of ponies, especially compared to pure unicorn cultures. It was their way to establish connection with whatever or whoever they were dealing with. It was as if they required that action to fully believe whatever they were interacting with was truly real. At the time, I came to suspect that the more distant connection to magic forced them to adapt to, shall we say, lack of extra sense and make up for it by touching things more often. It was as if their desperate attempt to connect with magic in their own way. I pitied them for that, and in a way, I grew scared of it too. In my mind, I kept picturing them petting me and stroking me with a dead and living look in their eyes, while drooling ceaselessly and pouring me at the like a pack of zombies, repeatedly groaning the word magic over and over again. How does he know the word zombies? How does he know the word zombies? That's the real question here. Oh, the imagination of young fools. The truth was a lot less scary than that, and gradually I saw the truth of it more and more. Not just then, but between many other encounters I made with their culture later in life. Each time taught its own lesson, which built up to what I know today. Each pony culture actually had an intense sense of honesty and integrity to it. They lived a simple life, and they were proud of it. I don't think I watched that special. I couldn't argue about the fact that it was important. This was the breed of ponies that grew most of the food in all Equestria. Where would we be without that? They knew that too, and they were proud of their contribution. Unlike my initial impression, they didn't see their own lives as a sense of what they lacked. They saw their lives for what they had instead, and what they had was a lifestyle of honesty, integrity, hardworking, and generally speaking happiness. The more I realized what they did have, the more I realized why Ramadan was attracted to this lifestyle. As I expected though, Ramadan's interaction with his brother directly was brief and vice versa. Based on the impatient way my father kept glancing at his pocket watch, it suggested he couldn't wait to leave. There were repeated attempts to invite him to dinner. He rejected it every time and kept mentioning how busy he was. He wasn't lying either, but at the time I suspected it was also just an empty excuse. Yeah, I'm still reading it, don't worry, I'm still reading. I still see the chat at the side of my eye. I'm doing the same as the characters are doing in the chapter 1. They are looking right and left at the same time. While I saw my anger, resentment in my father's eyes towards his brother, in Ramadan, I instead saw pity and some regret. It didn't change how Ramadan thought of his own life, but clearly, he had desperate hope that his relationship with his brother would improve. I think he wanted to invite his brother to spend some time with his family, as if that would help him explain why he made this choice. He wanted to demonstrate the fact that there were advantages to his choice, but no. His brother rejected every attempt to be invited. It wasn't long before he got right back in the carriage, and told the driver to direct the ponies pulling the carriage to drive on. There was a stern look from my father, as he glanced in my direction while the carriage drove. It was a silent reminder of, "You behave." The look seemed to say. What else would it be? Celestial forbid to be a look of, "You have a good time out here with your family, you hear?" Anyway, getting a little off topic here. My uncle introduced me to a whole host of family members and some extended relatives, especially on his wife's side. They were all Earth ponies except for my uncle. Yeah, you don't see Takeshy in this text chat because I am talking. I don't have to write. I asked it in with my mouse. Let's just say it like that. I asked it with my words. At first, I felt surrounded, even threatened a little, but the curiosity they had about my magic gradually relaxed me over time, and even kind of delighted me to some extent. Out here, I was an oddity, but in a curious way that also made me feel kind of special. And of course, in exchange, they happily introduced me to everything they had as well. It was a very fair exchange of information. I found myself becoming more and more grateful for the opportunity as time went on. My Celestia, don't even get me started on the food. Whole foods, puffy, raw grain, loaves of bread, stacks of hay, steaming vegetables dripping with cheese. At first, I was intimidated. That seems to be my first instinct when I encounter something dramatically new, but this was an experience that taught me the benefits of having an adventure. Sometimes you encounter really good things when you dare to take a chance in life, and this was certainly one of those cases. I bet on the family photos his own also gets edited out. Maybe. Wait. The yellow coat unicorn Philly? I will have to rewatch the Apple Family reunion. I can't say that word. Reunion episode then. I don't remember that picture. I'm pretty sure you already know this, my sweet. But let me make something extra clear to you, just in case. When you encounter something new, don't forget that it can be a threat, so be on your guard just in case, but also remember to be open-minded. You also don't want to risk rejecting something that might make your life flourish instead. Unlike many of my dinners back at the manor in Canterlot, this dining table was surrounded by lively activity and conversations. There was even some good-natured ribbing of each other. I had never seen anything like it before. I was just amazed. Which was the principal reason I was quiet, besides the fact that being quiet at the dinner table was also a habit. An exception to this was the multitude of times questions were asked directly at me, and they were asked in very open and familiar sort of way. Reacting to the questions with the proper etiquette, I always managed to politely swallow my food, put down my plate, and dab my lips with a napkin before answering. These were details that very likely went way over their heads, except for my uncle, and for his part he seemed secretly amused. I was clearly the fish out of water in this situation, and it was obvious enough for every pony at the dinner table to notice to some degree. Some noticed it more than others. That's all. Everywhere I went in their house was overcome by a rustic smell of old wood. I heard the creak of the floorboards as I trotted. The decor of the house was far more quaint than those of the manor I came from, but no pony else seemed to notice or care. I was very much aware that this was normal for them. They grew up in a house like this all their lives. Most likely they had for many generations. That also gave the house a deep sense of history. Also, there is no bats. Just kidding. I could just imagine the ghosts of their ancestors roaming about all over the place. But based on the impression I got from those who currently lived here, I had the distinct impression that if I could interact with their ancestors as ghosts, then they probably would be the friendliest ghost I would ever encounter. They would all likely all say, "Welcome, stay as long as you like. For as long as you live here, you are part of the family." That sounds like as if he already encountered a ghost before. First zombies, now ghosts? What else? I kept thinking about that as I drifted off to sleep on one of the many. Oh, This still looks like there is a dot at the end. I kept thinking about that as I drifted off to sleep on one of the many guest beds of the household. It actually brought a few tears to my eyes to consider how warm and inviting these ponies had been to me. They gave me what I didn't know I needed deep down, and they did it so naturally, so automatically. But after you leave, you have to pay! I found myself wishing I could stay there indefinitely. On the first night, I hadn't even asked my uncle why he chose to stay here, but I was already starting to get a vivid impression of his answer. That, of course, didn't mean I had no intention to ask him anyway. Despite all that I learned so far, I was open-minded enough to accept the possibility that his answer might still surprise me, and in a way that helped me prepare for the truth. It was on the third day of my stay with Uncle Ramadan's family that I learned that he had a special ritual of his own that the other family members respected, except this time there was a twist. So there is a time skip right here. It's already the third day. I learned that once in a while he went alone to go on a nature trot. From time to time he invited one or two of his many foals, unless they didn't wish to go. This time it was decided that I should go, considering the fact I wouldn't stay here long. How soon? I have around 2 hours and a little left. I have around 2 hours. That's what, yeah, around 2 hours. I don't know if I can finish this, because there's still a lot. And it seems there is no breeding point for a long time. Wow. But we will see how far I can get. No other pony was bitter on that point. Instead, they snickered to themselves secretly while I wasn't looking, as if convinced that I was in for a treat, and the surprise it was likely to evoke was what got them so amused. For my part, I was glad for the opportunity. A chance to go on a nature trot with my uncle in privacy for several days was exactly the kind of opportunity I had hoped for. In that case, I'm curious about something, Starbiz mused. Is that what we are doing now? Is what you and I are doing right now part of this nature trot ritual that you learned from your uncle? Oh, so this is the second day of present. Maybe you could suggest an appropriate moment for a break? Maybe. We will see. Exactly. Now you are catching on. Her father said cheerfully to his daughter. My strategy is a bit different, however. Instead of nature trots, which I also do from time to time, I also typically go on nature flies. The sky is part of nature too. Her father gestured to the sky with a grand wave of one hoof above him. What I do is not much different from Uncle Ramadan's ritual, and the reason for it is the same as well. Now, if you let me continue, I'll explain why he did it, and based on that, you can draw your own conclusions on the experience. Deal! Srabis agreed enthusiastically, without any hesitation. Now, I told you earlier that Earth pony culture involved a lot of rituals that I was previously unaccustomed to. In my own way, I was accustomed to hard work, but not the sort that they had in mind. It wouldn't surprise me if it turned out I was the only one on the farm who could read besides Uncle Abaddon. As warm and inviting as these ponies had been to me, I learned the next day that there was a price for their hospitality after all. Maybe Alchemist is right. It was their own form of etiquette in a way. In their culture, it was downright rude to take part in their food and home without repaying them with some good old-fashioned back-breaking labor. They had enough wisdom to realize that I wasn't prepared for the heaviest chores, so they relegated me to the lighter task, and at first it required a lot of hoof-holding, since the chores were so new to me. I wasn't stupid by any means, but even a genius can seem a little idiot if such a pony is taught nothing. The same thing applies here. They were aware that I was very new to their ways, so accordingly, they were very patient with me. Her father grinned at his daughter as he said to her, "As I said before, patience is a virtue. You learn that well when you encounter others who are patient with you. I think then you will realize the importance of extending the same hospitality, if only to be equally cautious." "You are probably right." Sabis agrees with this massive wave of hoof. "But for now, let's get on with the story." The novelty of the experience intrigued me back then. I wanted to break from my studies, and I got my wish. It was strange to think that the price of that wish was to be replaced with an entirely different challenge. Because it was so new, I couldn't call it boring. Not yet, at any rate. For their part, they saw their chores as nothing special, but they didn't complain about it either. Unless they were in a special amount of pain. If they were, then I was touched to hear that not only would the whole family stop and do whatever they could to heal the injured pony, but the whole extending town would offer the same if it helped. Okay, this part right here, he experienced that. It actually says that he experienced that some pony in the family was in pain. You didn't write it, that some pony was in pain, but he wouldn't say it unless he experienced it. Now it's canon. As for the chores themselves, though, none of the ponies who worked on it considered a burden, because they understood how important the test was. If you want food on the table, then you got to work for it. Their philosophy was as simple as that. It was a refreshing take on life that I considered too novel to complain about. But on the third day, there was something new. I joined Uncle Abaddon on his nature trot when invited. It wasn't sprung on me suddenly either. I was warned about it one day in advance, which gave me far more time than needed to consider the offer. I already had my own reasons for wanting privacy with my uncle. My only concern was the fact that the physical exertion of nature trot might exceed my capacity to keep on. It also occurred to me, in back of my mind, other threats that could not exist during the trot too. Like being mauled by a bear, or getting lost, or finding a ghost. What another threat could be, however, I felt safe next to my uncle. I knew that traveling with the most powerful unicorn of our age was unlikely to be a bad thing if I knew he was on my side. Regardless of whether he actually did swear of magic or not, it still occurred to me that he would at least be able to call upon such power in case of an emergency, and I had no doubt that he would use whatever power he had at his disposal to protect his beloved nephew if it became necessary. So, despite any misgivings I had about the potential danger or inconvenience, I strangely felt quite calm during the trip. It was almost as if I had done it before many times. Uncle Ramadan was at first quite quiet during the trip. From the farm, we headed immediately west into the forested mountains. Oh, we are at the mountains. We are at the foot of the mountains, probably. That's a really important point to take. The base of the mountains was hilly, but not too steep. I was often in the shadows, even during the daylight, thanks to all those tree leaves. There really was something soothing about listening to the sound of the wind blowing through the tree leaves. Whenever I paused to absorb this, it took me a while to notice my uncle did too. Most of the chapter is dialogue between Ramadan and Quill. There is no great stopping point. We will see how far I will get. That's what I can suggest. At first I thought he did it for the same reason, but over time another theory came to my head, and that theory was somehow he knew when I stopped even without looking at me. He stopped because I stopped. To make sure he did not proceed too far ahead of me, but there was some gap between us, so I started to wonder how he did that. Magic was my first theory, and I never completely dismissed it. Keen sense of hearing was another theory that came to mind. Whatever the case, I was grateful for his courtesy. It was also clear to me that he greatly enjoyed this. He never seemed lost or anxious. He just picked a direction and proceeded on. It seemed like he perfectly knew where he was going, or at least how he acted. Wait, I suggest a pause after the line, a pause after the line. That happened to me as well before, that I started a sentence and then rewrote the sentence same time. Easy to conceive, but difficult to master. We will see when I get there. I don't know when it is gonna be. Nothing too complex, just we can mark it on the map of Vestria. It is definitely close to a mountain, a forested mountain. The truth was, he did not care where he headed. Any direction surrounded him in nature, and he appreciated it on levels far beyond what I would have expected at the time. That is, until he explained himself to me later. In the beginning of the trip, it was like he was in a daze. It was as if he was meditating, even when trotting, absorbing his spirit in the essence of nature. As time went on, however, he acknowledged me more and more besides pausing whenever I did. At that point, he turned more into a teacher. He talked about the earth, the trees, the mountains, the birds on high. The birds were high. Just about everything and anything, especially if he encountered an example up close. He wanted to educate me in his own way, but his strategy involved less book learning and more hooves on. Eventually though, I finally asked him the question that had been in my head and in my heart for so long. "Finally!" Stabbies exclaimed. And further ignored that command as he spoke on and got back into character. "Uncle?" Quill prompted. I respected at this point. His uncle immediately paused and acknowledged his nephew. We are back to third person, okay. Quill swallowed the lump in his throat and gathered his courage for what he was about to ask. Despite everything that Quill learned about his uncle by that time, it was still possible Ramadan might take great offense to Quill's next question, and considering their surroundings, offending this powerful unicorn seemed unwise. But Quill though anyway. What do you expect? Was he gonna attack you with his magic or what? "Why did you leave our family?" Quill asked as bravely as he could. "Why did you abandon our ways? Why do you seem so ashamed of your heritage?" I don't know what kind of voice his uncle would do, but I think he would have a groveling voice. "What gave you that impression?" Ramadan ashamed, but in his eyes and his tone, he really didn't seem confused. He knew exactly why Quill left. He probably wanted to test his nephew's resolve with this conversation. "Everything," Quill answered. "The fact that you left our estate physically, the fact you moved in with the moved in and married a nurse pony, the fact that you trot and dress like and act like them, even wear the hat to hide your horn. It seems as if you are embarrassed and ashamed that you were born a unicorn." "What? This whole thing?" Ramadan asked casually, and for the first time, Quill saw a tiny display of Ramadan's magic. The hat in question flew off Ramadan's head telekinetically. Quill knew perfectly well that Ramadan could have reached up and pulled off the hat by hoof, but it seemed like he was making a point. He pulled off his hat using magic on purpose, both to demonstrate the fact that he could and to show that he wasn't bothered in doing so. Quill also noticed his fascination that Ramadan's aura color of his magic was golden, also illuminated. That was actually noteworthy. Some studies in the past suggested that unicorns' aura color had much to do with their personality, and if that color could be observed, then certain extrapolations could be made on it that heavily implied a certain kind of persona of each individual unicorn. The specific colors Specific colors have observable tendency to either favor or disfavor certain things, and that pattern was pretty strong, but not absolute. On the top of Quill's head, he forgot what each color suggested about the individual unicorn's personality, but he knew that research existed out there somewhere. Since Quill's magical color was silver, it also occurred to him that he might be strangely both compatible and yet opposite to his uncle's personality. The fact that Ramadan embraced Earthspawning culture so much, yet Quill was attracted to the sky, seemed to confirm that theory. All of the thoughts occurred to Quill in less than a second, and it needed to, since it didn't take Ramadan long to resume talking. "I don't wear this hat to hide the fact that I'm a unicorn. Every pony in my family, and the whole town at large, knows the fact. Instead, I wear this hat because I like it. It was a gift to me by a friend of mine in town, and I wear it both to show my appreciation for the gift, and the fact that I simply like it. I've grown used to it. It comes in hoofy too. It can help to absorb sweat, gives me shade to keep my head slightly cool whenever I exert myself, and also it shields my eyes from the glare of the sun. As the sun's angle in the sky changes, I can just tilt my head in any which way to maintain the shade over my eyes. All of this convenience stored in one light, hoofy item. I can enjoy all of these conveniences without occupying either of my hoofs as well. My head alone carries this thing. Does it interfere with your magic? Quill did not ask that question as a mockery. He was genuinely curious. He could not think of reasons why it might be, but he was not certain. It can at times, a little. Ramadan felt as he spun the hat in midair, using his magic before slapping it back on his head. But honestly, my concentration is so formidable that it hardly bothers me at all. Also, I can tell you that there are some heads out there in the Questra that can actually enhance your connection to magic. It all depends on the head's shape and material it's made from. For my part, I don't use magic too often anymore anyway, so it's not really an inconvenience to me at all, not compared to its benefits. But why? Why do you choose not to use magic anymore? Quill pressed. I'm not avoiding it, if that's what you are asking. Ramadan informed. I simply chose not to exploit it too much. But you are so good at it. Many would argue that it's a waste of precious talent. I even heard some say that you are ignoring the destiny of your cutie mark. Ah. Rabel suddenly seemed so quite interested in the conversation. Now, destiny is quite an interesting topic. It's subject to so many interpretations. Have you ever heard of a pony who got their cutie mark and then also subsequently a scroll materialized out of thin air that carefully explained exactly what they got their cutie mark for? A list of instructions of do's and don'ts. Destiny is a tricky topic, and I believe that it's that way on purpose. If all of us got a scroll that materialized out of thin air, that had the details of our lives, and destiny written out as if we were fictional characters in a script, would life continue to be as enjoyable as it is today? I think destiny is left to interpretation on purpose, because sometimes the destiny can change. There is no true free. Wow. There is no true free will in a world without flexibility. I'm gonna suggest a thing that when there is no change of the talker, you shouldn't redo the quote marks, as I said in the beginning, when the father continued. If he's continuing talking, just stop the quote mark when it is done. If pinky is of any indication, yes, they will. Huh? Quill looked down. I never thought of it that way before. Then it is high time that you do. Ronald advised, then looked elsewhere. Life is amazing, Ronald said with a voice full of wonder. It's full of adventure and mystery, and we are all fellow travelers on that path. I will offer what guidance I can, when I can, but in the end, it is you who must set your own path. Also, just a second, I'm gonna grab some water. Because I gave Ramadan one of the most grueling sounds on your throat. No, Ramadan's voice is fine. It's actually fine. I'm not over-exerting my voice right there. It's just a little bit hard to maintain for a long time. But I had more painful words, more painful voices in Phoenix Wright. It's not that hard, don't worry. I just needed some water, that's all. Ramadan looked back at his nephew. Don't let any other pony tell you who you are. And I do mean any pony. He said with emphasis, and Quill realized he must be talking about his father, Otter. Suggestions are fine, but in the end, it is you who must choose your own path. Warning, he does a lot of talking. That's fine. My cutie mark is not even a suggestion. It is a symbol marking and commemorating the day I first started to realize my true potential. Notice, I said start, my nephew. This is all a cutie mark really is. Whatever you choose to do in life, there is no way you will be as good as your future self 30 years from now. A cutie mark does not mark the end of your path. It is the beginning of a journey of self-discovery, and self-discovery is a never-ending path. Life would not be worth living if you suddenly had all the answers. Instead, life is a journey of progress between one day and the next and the next. It keeps going on, inviting you to discover many new things as you continue the path. And how has abandoning your or limiting your magic furthered your path? Quill asked, to put the source of his curiosity back on topic. Starbreeze also listens carefully to the answer to that question many years later. Ramadan didn't answer right away. Instead, he paused to consider how he should phrase this answer, so that it could be better understood by somebody much younger than himself. He knew his audience was only capable of understanding so much at the time based on previous life experiences. So he also knew he had to build the logic of his argument one clear step at a time. At first, Ramadan looked down, then west at a large mountain. His gaze suddenly rose up. His gaze suddenly rose up it. And still, he pondered. While still looking in that direction, he eventually spoke. Magic, as you have come to understand it so far, is based on structure. Ramadan looked back at his nephew, then resumed his speech. Structural magic has its advantages because it is reliable, repeatable, and teachable. It is like a recipe for a cake. If you use the same ingredients in the same quantity, if you prepare those ingredients the same way according to that recipe, then more often than not, it will yield the same results every single time. As long as you follow the directions carefully, you will achieve predictable results. It can be in either direction, Alchemist. They have wandered into the woods already. They have done many times. This is the structure of most unicorn academies when it comes to magic. What use is there in learning a spell if it relies on a system nobody else can replicate? But Quill agrees. That means it is actually at the east of a large mountain. Okay. Sure, you can do it at least one time, but even you might have trouble doing it again if the method of your spellcasting does not use tried and true reliable structure. If you can't repeat your methods and nobody else can either, then why should any pony believe you and when you say you did it once? Even if they observed you when you first did it, they still could dismiss it as a fluke. Like they did it with Twilight. I need you to understand this, because that's the environment you came from, and where I originally came from. There are also very good reasons for the tried and true system. You with me so far? Yes, so far. Starbase also agreed. Many years ago. Many years later. And that's the system that I'm sure my brother has been pounding into your head over and over again ever since I left. Ramadan suspected. After your mother died, I'm sure he became even more obsessed to drill this stuff into you. That would basically the heart. That would be basically the heart of the that killed the Windigos. Something that happened once. Yep. And I have a feeling that Ramadan is about to tell us something very grueling. Because Quill's father became obsessed to drill this stuff into Quill. To the structural magic, because I have a feeling that nature magic actually killed the mother of the Sonic Rainbow, but the Sonic Rainbow now has is now a structural magic because she can repeat it many times. Clover the Clever? Who is that? Oh. Okay. Please don't blame him for this. He honestly means well. Wait, it's still him. Please don't blame him for this. He honestly means well. This is because in his eyes, it is the best way to ensure your future happiness and success. Powerful spellcasters can accomplish a lot, no matter what obstacle is placed in front of them. Indeed, even the laws of physics, like gravity, are no barrier to even simplest of unicorn magic. Case in point, he flew his head off his head for a second before replacing it on his head telekinetically. I didn't reach to grab my head off by hoof, so what I just accomplished by defied the normal laws of gravity, until I tipped my head so far down that up. What? Until I tipped my head so far down that up has become the new down. My head should stay on my head where it belongs. Oh yeah, true. You are right. The first Sonic Rainbow has a range over Equestria. With extra training, even more can be accomplished through magic. At the same time, he is also probably drilling all sorts of educational tidbits into you. Again, he means well. In his eyes, it is the means you decide to discipline you, your powers, so that you are better able to understand and control your power, rather than other way around. Undisciplined unicorn magic can indeed be very dangerous, even to the owner of the horn. I think there are some diseases out there that can put a unicorn's horn on the fritz, temporarily or otherwise. If and when that happens, I have this advice to say to you. If you can't control your powers for some reason, then don't you dare try to use it. By defying this advice, you could make the problem worse, and even get yourself or any pony around you killed. That sounds like he's talking by experience. Get the disease or whatever it is that is blocking your control out of the way, and then use your magic to your heart's content. Ramadan was quiet for a moment. To give that advice time to sink in. He was satisfied to see his nephew looking down and doing precisely that. Similarly, Strawberries as well gave that advice some genuine thought. If she accomplished her goal somehow, then what her granduncle said all those years ago was something worth considering. Looking around for a moment, Ramadan spotted something adequate to his intent. After locating it, he looked back at his nephew and gestured for him to approach using a hoof. Seeing that, Quill cooperated. He followed his uncle until Ramadan reached a small clearing and sat on a rock. He then gestured to the ground in front of him, indicating that his nephew should sit there. Ramadan had a feeling this conversation would take a while, since he knew he had to build his argument step by step, and toss in some other life lessons along the way while he was at it. So now that we got that out of the way, let's recap in brief. I was a great wizard at the Silver Horn Academy in Canterlot, just like your father is now. I was both a gifted student and a gifted teacher. My power and control of magic were unmatched by most at the time. Considering the difference in degrees of talents between various unicorns, it is most often considered to be entirely innate. Whatever magical potential you have, and no matter how much you train, a common misconception is you can go so far with magic until your potential plateaus. I tell you now, that way of thinking is donkey dung. Great wizards of any age have gotten that way through many years of diligent study and practice, but all they do is something any pony could potentially do if they have the same drive. Any feeble earth pony can exercise to get stronger. Any Pegasus can practice flying more and get better. Any unicorn can practice his or her magic and get better. No pony's potential ever truly plateaus. The stronger you get at anything, the harder it is to improve even further, but that does not mean it can't be done. Keep at it, and you can surpass any limit that others think you are imposed with. Prove them wrong and keep growing. You will never know how far you would have gotten until you try. And don't ever think that failure is a sign that you have already reached your maximum potential. It does mean you have reached a wall of sorts, but in truth, those walls are just doors. All you have to do is find a doorknob, open it, then press on if you wish. Or, if you wish, you can just go through that wall by force. Now, along with the education and training, there are other kinds of information the schools teach young ponies, which I now regard as misconceptions. bearing an unicorn princess like Princess Celestia. And since she is the only one of her kind, we will just shove that category aside and call this a unique case. Beyond this, every pony knows there are 3 breeds of ponies. Earth ponies. Ramadan suddenly levitated a small rock and held up to his nephew, a symbolic representation of that breed of ponies. Then he went on say, unicorns. He then levitated a stick, which probably represented the horn of a unicorn. Then he said, and Pegasus. For some reason I levitated a single leaf. Will thought for a moment on that one, until it occurred to him that the leaves could easily be blown on the wind. One could also think of the leaf as representing the Pegasus wing, or even a single feather of such a wing. Once Ramadan levitated all 3 objects, he had them spiral around each other as he continued his lecture. Now, so far, I have listed something that's one of the most basic sciences in all Equestria. Another thing young ponies learn at very young age is the relationship between the 3. But beyond that, the basic things can get quite complicated, so pay attention. Earth ponies. He lifted the rock higher and closer to his nephew to give that object emphasis. Till the lands grow our foods, and in general take care of any other task that is even remotely related to Earth. Second only to Parasite, they are also the most common explorers, and they definitely are the most common sailors. Since Earth ponies have no other way to cross the ocean, unlike the other 2 breeds, they have developed this technology to such refined degree that the other 2 breeds have come to rely upon it as well. If you go far enough across the ocean, even a Pegasus tires and needs to land, but if there is nowhere to land, they could be in trouble. If there is no cloud in the sky to land upon either, then they are really up a creek without a paddle. Same thing with the unicorn. Maybe they can invent a spell to trot across the water, or even teleport across the entire ocean, but the general rule of magic is as follows. The greater the degree of magic is, the harder it is to cast, and the greater amount of energy they have to expend to cast it. I forgot the dot at the end. And the greater the energy they have to expect to cast it. Eventually, it exceeds their ability to pay for the power, at least temporarily. Unicorns tire too, in their own way, but old reliable sailing boats keep trucking on when all other methods eventually fail. The vessel can also be large enough to store food on it, so that extends the range of their travel even further. No breed of pony is more underestimated than the Earth ponies, but we will get back to that point later. The rock flew back, and the leaf flew towards and above the other 2 levitated objects. Parasite are the undisputed masters of the sky. Like the Earth, the air is a critical element to our mutual survival. They control the weather, and they can travel greater distances than most other breeds of ponies, and they can do it in a fraction of time. Unless their flying ability is really feeble or non-existent, Parasite can easily win any race imposed upon them when it comes to speed. These trees around us, for example, are not just obstacles to them. They can just fly above it, as if nothing was in front of them, while an Earth pony has to gallop along the ground and dodge every rock and tree and creature in front of them, and they have to follow the ups and downs of the landscape. Parasite can simply skip over all that. This is why they are the most common mail carriers. If you need a letter delivered to the next town across Equestria, and you need it delivered fast, then you are a fool to give it to any other breed, unless a unicorn has the means of teleporting it all across Equestria. Someone gave Quill a hoof salute, or maybe a dragon, who has not born yet. Good luck finding some pony who can do that, especially if they have never been there before and cannot properly visualize the destination accordingly. If you do find a unicorn who can do it, then it must cost an exorbitant amount of magic to pull that off in great distances. They probably charge a lot for the services accordingly, but your letter is an emergency, it might be worth the price. Getting back off topic, because I also have great special awareness, and generally speaking, they have better senses when it comes to distance. They experience 3D world in its entire delay at a very early age. When it comes to a scout, there is unlikely to be a better breed. Their vision is about 3 times sharper than the 2 other breeds, and some seem to think their hearing is similarly enhanced, but my observations suggest that honor actually belongs to the Earth ponies. Again, the most underestimated breed. The leaf flew back and down, and the stick took its place. Given the flexibility of magic, a unicorn's ultimate potential is the most difficult to define. But one thing every pony can agree upon is that the distinct advantage of unicorn is their connection to magic. They channel it far more directly than the other 2 breeds, especially when compared to Earth ponies, but we will get back to that point later. He is emphasizing Earth ponies a lot. Obviously, he chose to become an Earth pony. At least the way of the Earth pony. He is choosing to follow that. The horn, they say, channels and focuses the magic around them, and especially within themselves. As great their potential is, ponies raised isolated from the other 2 breeds rarely realize that the unicorns masters their potential the latest. That is because it's more difficult for them to master their magic in comparison to a Pegasus who can fly almost by instinct, or an Earth pony who can pick up a rock, or any object basically. The unicorn would sooner learn to pick up a rock by hoof than master the ability to levitate it magically. But let me give some information about the science of horn magic, and what's really going on when the unicorn channels their magic. Unicorn Master Race! Even Traitor Ramadan agrees. Does he? If the magic is channeled from within, like most schools of magic teach, then there are 2 things one must pay attention to. Between these 2 things, the one thing that's understood the most is concentration. Easy to conceive, but difficult to master. Try to picture as many bricks in your mind as you can, then hold that image for as long as you can without allowing it to change. Saying Quill almost do it? Ramadan interrupted it. Not now. You can do it later. Quill opened his eyes again. That's good practice for you though. Ramadan said encouragingly. Do indeed try it later. Yes, pretty much every pony, even those who are not unicorns, know that concentration is essential to spellcasting. The clarity of vision also affects the degree and strength of the spell. If your concentration is fuzzy, the spell might not work at all. If it's crystal sharp, then you could be working with some serious power. But what many ponies don't know, even many unicorns sadly, is that there is a second component to spellcasting that is absolutely essential, but rarely understood. Wait, it's stop point reached? Easy to convince but difficult to master. That's the halfway point. Okay, I will read this last line and continue from here. And let's just say it like this. Okay. Ramadan placed the hoof over his heart and said, "The heart, or more specifically, unicorn's emotions." So, okay. I will bookmark this right here. There we go. And we can continue this. I know there is no point right now. There is no live section right here. But I'm gonna add another live for tomorrow at the same point. So I can finish it tomorrow. I didn't expect this to be this long. If that's okay with you. But yeah, it's getting actually pretty interesting because one of the most interesting theories that we are dealing with are how magic works. What about unicorns? What about Pegasi? What about Earth ponies? It's really going into that. Same time? Yep, same time. And the only thing, as I said, that is a little bit strange is this, that when some pony continues to talk, you shouldn't start a new quote mark, because it actually shows that some pony else is talking. But no, it's the same character talking. So you should delete these quote marks. It's just a continuation of this. Sometimes I was confused who is actually talking because of the quote marks. And I don't know. I guess it's better to delete these underlines because it is actually oversetting my eyes. But let's see, are there more? And there are no more, so you can delete those parts. The underlines. You heard otherwise? Let me see the comments though. There are none here. They are probably said it in the other chapters. You heard otherwise, because yeah, it's good to note that they are talking, but use open quotes but not close quotes until dawn. Yeah, I will rename this, don't worry. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You use open quotes, but if you do another quote, that's a closing quote right there. This is the opening quote, this is the closing quote mark. So let's say he starts talking here. And he stops talking, let's say here. Here. Right? Yeah. This is the only quote mark that you need to add. This and this. This is the closing. This is the opening. You don't need to add opening quotes at every other starting point, because if you start another, it tells me that somebody else is talking at that point. And if there are two characters in that scene, I will assume that this is said by the uncle, Quill, uncle, Quill, uncle, Quill. You see, still open quotes because it's the beginning of sentence. But even if it's a new paragraph, you don't open it again. It's already open. You know what I mean, right? It's already open. If you start a new open quote, that means somebody else is talking. I thought that was actually common sense. But that's my only problem with this. Nothing else. The story is getting really interesting, and I would love to continue, but as you can see, there is a lot more left. So I'm gonna continue it tomorrow. And thank you for giving me a stopping point. I'm curious about what Artemis is gonna say about this as well. Because it's good to hear everybody's fixations of things and theories. Question, yes? This is more text, not inside the quotes, separate the sentences. Yes, I will still do chapter 3 on Friday. That's unchanged. Better you finish this whole chapter too before going analysis. That's true. I should probably add this super fast. Let me see, everything is still working? Yep. Let me swap to this. Don't worry, I already made a playlist as well. It's already on the channel, I don't know if it shows. Let me see. Playlists. Yeah, there you go. It's already there. It was probably not visible for you. But I made it when the prologue, when I uploaded the prologue. And then I'm gonna add the tomorrow's and the next one as well in it. You have to wait for YouTube to finish the process of release live stream, yep. Well, this didn't go beyond 2 hours yet. We have 6 more minutes to talk about this, if you want to. Yeah, last time when the live chat recording took like 8 hours. The replay. So yes, sadly we couldn't reach the end, but tomorrow I will finish it, hopefully. And you hopefully don't hear that stupid noise that my neighbor is making. But that means I'm gonna leave right now. So thank you for being here. It is for you after all. And I hope you liked it. And I hope my voice is not gonna go away for tomorrow. The uncle's voice, Ramadan's voice, is not that hard on the throat. It is just a little bit failing. Not that much. Are you aiming for about 2 hours past the streaming session? Maybe, maybe. So you expected that even that chapter was longer and having data. I thought this was gonna be the same length as the first chapter, but it was much more longer. 2 or 3 hours. About 2-3 hours. But let me see. I won't be able to stream on next week Monday, that's for sure. So maybe Thursday, Wednesday and Friday, but we will see. Next few chapters are shorter, okay. Really heavy chapters are late in the book. Okay, and I also saw that you added that request for Derpy. I would recommend 4 hours before expected interruptions with actual chapter reading. Yeah, I would have done much longer sessions if I wasn't working. And wait. Okay, on Friday it will be a longer session because on Friday I'm not gonna go to work. So Friday is gonna be longer stream. So I might be able to finish it. At least if my voice can handle it, obviously. So we can see my reaction to it. I didn't even open it yet. But I will do it. Don't worry. You know, all of my reactions are blind, so I'm not gonna open it until I am ready with the recording. the Dorpy song. It's not gonna be today, because that will be needed to be recorded separately. We can talk more about the chapter itself after the reading. Yeah, that's a good idea. We will see how adorable it is. I'm pretty sure it will be adorable because it's about Derpy, obviously. I'm gonna read chapter 2 before you. Oh, thank you. We are gonna read it together. What? That means I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna have a long bath, because I wouldn't have been able to have a long bath time. I can actually show you this. Just a second, because it takes a little bit of time to load. When I'm gonna do the recording, probably on the weekend. Oh god. Okay. Is it that one? Hello everybody, I'm Takeshy. One of my files went missing. I didn't record it because obviously YouTube is uploading it on its own. But I have to tell you, I have the what is it? Let me see, YouTube. The next episode of My Little Pony already recorded. It's already up. I just got the okay from Hasbro, so that is gonna go live really soon. And can I show this? There we go. Right monitor. You probably can't see too much, so I'm gonna zoom in on those. Is this the one? There we go. These two are online, so at the weekend I will be able to let these out. Episode 9 and Ruby as well. Ruby episode 6. Have you ever watched my own blind reactions? Yes. I always watch them back while I'm writing those reaction sessions. those long comments that I started. When did I start the comments? Writing those long comments. I don't actually remember. Yeah, I know, I'm behind with Equestria Girls, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't even know which one is the next one with Equestria Girls. And which one did I react to last time? Okay. It seems I'm missing a file from one of my settings, but everything should be fine. I'm gonna leave now. I'm gonna look for my file. That is. Two functions that is so discarded to each other. Yeah, thank goodness. They are canon but not canon at the same time. But now, I'm gonna leave. Again, thank you for being here. And see you next time. I'm gonna go have a bath and get ready for work. And hopefully I will be more awake next time. But now I'm really going. Bye bye. Keep well. Go back to sleep. Have a good night. So up to season 8 episode 9, yes. I'm at season 8 episode 9 and I have season 8 episode 10. Which I not reacted to yet. But I have it on my computer, so I'm ready to record it whenever I have the time. But now, again, I'm leaving. Thank you all for watching and see you tomorrow. I'm gonna add that as well, the live alert for you. So, yeah. Bye.